Welcome to another Wisdom Pods. Today with us is Cory Connors. He is Director of Sustainable Packaging at Aurora Packaging Solutions in Portland, Oregon. He's also a podcast founder and host. It's called Sustainable Packaging Podcast. Apparently, it's pretty popular. Cory's just out there. This podcast is brought to you by podpire.com. If you want to start, scale, be invited to a podcast like this one, find sponsors and so forth. I can help you with that. Podpire is my 1 year-ish newborn. Started off pretty well. There's a strong need for podcasting, and Cory will tell you the same. It's amazing to learn. It's amazing to give back. It's amazing to meet new folks that you would normally not have the opportunity to meet. And finally, you can even derive business out of them with leads and clients that they generate. So podpire.com for that. Cory, welcome to the pod. Can you tell me a bit more about yourself and most specifically about your podcast?
Yeah, thank you so much, Charles. Really an honor to be here. The podcast is about 2 years old now and was encouraged to be started by a couple of friends of mine in the industry, Adam Peak and Avelio Matos, who also have podcasts. And they said, hey, you should do one about sustainable packaging. And I said, no, I don't want to ever. It's too much work. And then I said, okay, I'll do it. But it all worked out well, and it's been a great source of education for me and for many, and really appreciate the audience that I have. We just passed 61,000 downloads, which I felt like was a big mark. So excited about it.
Tell me about the pod itself. How do you get the guests on? How do you promote it? How you ask great questions? Give us a 201 class here.
Yeah, great. So most people are people that I met at events, sustainable packaging events or packaging shows, things like that. Or I've worked with them in real life, brands that I'm interested in, brands that I think other people would be excited to learn about, how they were able to improve their packaging to be more sustainable. It's an interview style show, just like yours, where I ask questions about what I think my audience would be excited to learn about. I really want to add value to every person that listens or watches on YouTube, because it's important to me to not waste anybody's time, because our time is valuable. So it's been a great podcast. It's been, social media has treated me really well. I started a few years ago making LinkedIn posts and then TikToks, and then it turned into the podcast and so much more. So thank you.
TikTok. Yeah. Interesting channels right there. So was it like a strong learning curve, or did you just post stuff and you saw instant growth? Because my wife, she's somewhat of a TikToker, and I remember her posting videos for me, getting 200K views the next day. She had videos with millions of views. So how did it go for you?
Yeah, a very steep learning curve. I had never done social media before and was kind of against it. Frankly, I didn't understand it. So now I do. Now I see that it can be very positive and very helpful, and you can add value through social media. My goal was 10,000 followers. I thought, oh, if I ever had 10,000 followers, I'd be huge. That happened. It happened fairly quickly. I was, 6 to 12 months. I was there, and I was very honored and appreciative. And now we're over 90,000 followers, and it's growing quickly, and it's exciting. There's a community of people that care about the world, and they want to improve all aspects of their lives, even the way that they recycle packaging or use packaging in their businesses.
And how did you get that much views? Is it just trial and error and trying to reproduce and what's out there and experiment on your own side, do a bit of analysis and do it again?
Yes, exactly. Try things, fail often, hard, fail big, get a lot of pushback, and then do something different, and then get less pushback, and then do some that again, and try that similar. Uh, but put yourself out there, be yourself, and you'll be amazed at how much traction you get. I think if you have a genuine force behind you like that, like you want to help the planet, you're not just out there selling or trying to manipulate. I think there is very positive, intentions out there, and people can tell. They understand you're being genuine. So I've always just been myself, and it's worked out pretty well. Very excited.
And why is sustainable packaging important? Can you give us the stats on the emissions and the damages to the planet?
Yeah, great question. Sustainable packaging is critical to our future. Recycling rates are continuing to rise. They're improving daily because of education, because of extended producer responsibility. Uh, Companies are being forced to use packaging that is more sustainable. This is great news for all of us, especially the planet. Uh, you're going to see things being packaged differently. I think you'll already see it. You mentioned, Charles, before we started, receiving an Amazon delivery. I'm sure that's packaged different now today than it was a year ago. Hopefully. I know that they have been often criticized for using boxes that are too large, or packaging that is less than sustainable. But what I'm seeing from them is they are now leading the force to be more sustainable. They ship 6,000 packages every minute. So just wrap your head around that. If they made those packages half an inch smaller, how much less material that would be, and how much less that material would have to be dealt with. So it's pretty intense. It's pretty incredible, the numbers and the volumes that are out there. They're just one company that we ordered from.
Right. And we talked, you and I, that we both interviewed Lime Loop
Hmm.
CEO.
Yeah.
She was quite amazing. And I asked her the same question, which is basically, why isn't Amazon into something more sustainable? Is it the economics? Is it that the technology is not there? Is it that it is eco-sustainable what they're doing? Why don't they adopt a solution that is more recyclable and more healthy for the planet?
I think the answer is they are, and they are as fast as they can at the scale that they're at. A lot of these sustainable solutions, like hers, are maybe a little bit more difficult to scale. There's a lot of technology involved with reusable packaging. She's a brilliant founder. I highly recommend looking her up. Lime Loop is a great company, and their technology is really amazing. Um, you're going to see a lot more sustainable options coming through the line with companies like Amazon. They're going to be forcing or strongly urging their customers or their suppliers to provide packaging that's ready to ship, or as they call it, SIOC, ships in own container, so that they don't have to repack it. I think that's been one of the hindrances of their situation, is they can't, uh, you know, you have to be quick, you have to be fast. The throughput is key when you're shipping, that kind of volume, and trying to get people. Everybody wants everything the next day, so the pressure is on. But I think you're going to see a lot more innovations there. It's exciting to watch. For example, Amazon just canceled. They've stopped using their bubble mailers. The plastic bubble mailers, so they won't use those anymore. Of course, they have to go through the millions that they ordered, but they've stopped ordering more, which is good. That's a step, and you'll see more steps like that in the future.
I'm curious, what did they replace that one with? Because above all, it's to limit the damage, which is their priority, right? Always satisfy the customer. And if the item is broken, well, they're not better off. So what are they
Mhm.
using instead?
Yeah, they're using a paper-based mailer, similar, sizes and dimensions, that has cushioning in between the two layers of paper. That is I believe it's a starch-based product, but very easy to recycle curbside for most of us in the world. Um, so that's great news.
It is. I'm curious because you're onto a lot of things on your side, and you have good data on how is the planet doing vs the startup ecosystem that is building the next gen of products and possibly solutioning the mess that our ancestors and ourselves left us with. So are you positive on the outlook of this planet, this humanity, and if we're fixing the emission and pollution crisis right now? Are you positive on that, generally speaking?
Yes, I think I've always been an optimist. Sometimes it can be very challenging when I'm reading certain books, certain data you mentioned. It can be very disheartening. But that doesn't stop us, right? We can't let it stop us. We have to focus on positive things and continue to do positive things, like designing packaging that's easy to recycle or compostable. Even if it gets into the environment, it'll be fine. There are things like that that are in process. I'm very fascinated by a lot of these companies that are gathering waste at the rivers before it gets to the ocean. There are a lot of companies that are doing that, and then there are companies that are collecting it out of the ocean, which is great. A lot of that waste you'll see is actually fishing equipment. So that's an interesting thing to think about. A lot of that plastic in the ocean is, put there on accident, of course, by that fishing industry. But a lot of it can be packaging too.
What about a technology that has pretty much seeds of trees and everything? So in a chewing gum, in a cigarette filter, in a plastic bag, it seems that we could engineer that at this stage, and includes include these micro seeds that aren't even viewable. And every time you throw something out your car window, not saying I do that, I don't even own a car, but if I would throw something out there, it would grow into a tree.
Mhm. Yeah, interesting concept. There are packaging materials like that. There's paper with seeds embedded into it. It's kind of a niche product. Um, the issue I have with it is we don't want to encourage people to throw things into the environment, and that is kind of counterintuitive what they're doing. I understand it's very well marked on there that says, okay, this material has seeds in it, and that's great. So you could put it in your garden or your backyard or whatever, which is good. But yeah, we'd like to stop people from throwing things into, the ditch when they're driving, or in a place where it's not going to be recycled or confined. Yeah.
I just got another idea. It's gross. So it's basically you put these seeds on into food, every food that we eat, and when we go to the toilet, it grows into these these plants that grow in the water, in French nénuphar,
Hmm.
and these plants that grow in the water and the swamps and so forth, and eventually, who knows, maybe even in trees. And it could be the same for dogs and cats, so when they poo poo, they would actually grow tree.
Yeah,
It's kind of gross,
that
but
makes
yeah.
sense. Yeah, that assumes that you leave the feces where it is, right?
Again, yeah, I love the fact that you think about the product itself and like
Yeah.
deeper than, I guess that's your job. I want to ask though, like with all that you're doing nowadays, like what's your focus? So you have your day job, quote unquote, at
Hmm.
Aurora.
Yes.
So that's like your 9 to 5, quote unquote. Do you do the pod in the morning, the evenings? How do you split your time?
Yeah, definitely. Aurora is my main focus, and providing our customers with the most sustainable options available. I am kind of a scout, and I'm looking for new materials all the time, on the phone with people that are innovating in the market, which is why the podcast fits perfectly into that, because I get to interview them at length and in detail about their new packaging material, or solution, or idea. So I get to be kind of that tip of the spear into the industry to find what's new, and then we get to offer that to our customers. It's fantastic. It's a great synergistic relationship that works for all of us.
How do you plan in growing the podcast? Do you feel that you're already in the stratosphere and it's just like maintaining, or like how do you plan to grow it even to a larger size?
Yeah, I think the answer to that is tenacity. I guerrilla marketing, handing out my stickers and my iron-on patches with my QR codes on them, and at shows and events, and going live on TikTok, and advertising as much as I can, posting clips on LinkedIn, YouTube. I post all the videos there. Um, but no, I certainly have a long ways to go. Um, I'm not really sure what success looks like for my podcast, but I think it's growing every day, and that's exciting.
And one definition of success could be the profitability of it.
Mhm.
So do you have sponsors? How do you make cash off that?
Yes, I have some sponsors, which has been really great to get to promote products that are sustainable, or companies that have sustainable solutions. So it's very humbling to be a part of this whole process, because I think I've spent my 26-year career building to this, and to be able to legitimately promote things that I think are sustainable and good alternatives is it's really an honor.
An impressive. You've been to that LinkedIn Creator Accelerator program. What did you learn from there?
Yeah, that was a great program. They chose 100 people in the U.S. They started in North America, specifically in the USA, and now they've had several others in India and other locate Europe. But to be a part of that first 100 people with LinkedIn was really cool, because they didn't, it was new. They didn't know exactly what they were going to teach us, but we all learned so much, and I made some very good friends that I still keep in contact. But it really, I mean, it more than doubled my follower count on LinkedIn in 6 months, which for me was just mind-boggling. I couldn't believe it, that all these people would want to follow me and hear what I have to say. And then the feedback I kept getting was, "Wow, this is very interesting. I'm thank you for telling us about this." These things that I've been learning for these 2.5 decades. I forget that that's exciting information. It's interesting to people to learn about Scotch cushion lock and these different materials that are more sustainable options. Um, it's cool.
It's funny because you look like you're always like, oh, how did this happen? So, and you have 18K followers on LinkedIn, 89K on TikTok. So you're like this wandering genius sort of in your field, right? And I think
Thank you.
your niche is really cool. I think people are very much interested into that about yeah, learning and making an impact out there. I think people really started waking up, and that brings back a question I forgot to ask you. You mentioned earlier that you see these documentaries sometimes and they create fear in you. Do you think
Mhm.
that's a way to have people react, or is your message most of the time mostly positive, and you want to invite folks slowly to adopt the movement rather than scare them into action?
Yeah, great points. There are two ways to motivate, right? You can the the carrot or the stick, and I like to use the carrot. I think it's important to be positive and to say, well, if we could do this, it would be helpful, and to promote things that are helping, promote people that are helping, promote brands that are doing good things. I don't want to be the one that's pointing the finger and saying you're screwing up. That's not my job. I prefer to focus on what's positive and put good things out into the world to educate and say, look, we can do this. Check this out. These people are doing it and it's successful. Things like Oregon's bottle drop program. That's amazing. We were the first to do that, and that's it's exciting to see what's possible. And if a lot of these things could be adopted internationally, we would be way ahead.
So what's next for you this year? What are your top 3 goals?
Yeah, a lot of travel coming up. I'm very honored and excited to get to go to Amsterdam, to go to Packaging Europe. That was one of my goals, to be a part of that event and to be asked to judge their Sustainable Packaging Awards. So I'm thankful for my friend Tim Sykes for inviting me to do that. And I also wanted to be a part of the press, and I got to do that this year as well with the International Packaging Press Organization. Thankful to my friend Lindy Hewson and her team, Lisa Pierce, and many more there. But to be part of the community of press officially feels pretty cool and is exciting. Um, I'm also hoping to travel to Australia. I think the people in Australia are doing very, very good things with sustainability, including our company Aurora, that's based out of Melbourne, Australia. So I'm excited to see that in person and to learn from them. There are some very cool innovations coming from that part of the world.
And to CEOs listening, what are a couple of ways that they can have a positive impact on planet Earth today?
Great question. You can reach out to someone like us at Aurora and talk about your packaging in a way that's innovative, and say, okay, what if we could eliminate this? What if we could try this material? Here are 5 things we could do differently to reduce our waste, to shoot for a zero waste goal, to provide more sustainable alternatives. And then maybe look at your product. Is your product as sustainable as it could be? And is your company using the right fuel in your vehicles and the right electricity source to power your production? There's so many things that we can do that might seem minor. Things like put in an air dryer instead of paper towels, little tiny things like that add up in an incredible way. Or if you want to use paper towels, recycle them or compost them in the back. And there are things that can be done that are very significant when you start to add them up.
100%. And where can people find out more about you and your pod?
Yeah, thank you. It's on all the major podcasts avenues: Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Check out Sustainable Packaging Podcast with Cory Connors. You'll see this green and yellow logo that looks like me. My friend Avelio Matos designed it. I have to thank him every time I mention it. He did it for free, and it's so cool. He just sent it to me one day. He said, "Hey, this is your new logo." I said, "Okay, thank you." And on TikTok and Instagram at Corygated, CORYGATED.
Well, thank you so much, Cory. My name is Charles Cormier. I am host of the Wisdom Podcast. So you can find Cory Connors on LinkedIn and just Google his podcast, Sustainable Packaging Podcast.